Hi there, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters, and today we're going to talk soccer. So let's get straight to it. I don't care about the World Cup. I don't care about Mexico in the World Cup, and you shouldn't care about any of these things either. Let's flip the order of this a little bit. Why shouldn't you care about Mexico? For the same reason you don't care about any of your other rivals, right? If you're, I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, right? And that meant basketball was beaten into my head from a really young age. I sucked at the sport. I don't watch it so much anymore, but I was in a basketball city. UK Wildcats were the team, which meant I wasn't rooting for the Indiana Hoosiers, the North Carolina Tar Heels, or the Duke Blue Devils. Never going to happen. Never, ever going to happen, right? Okay, so what's the big rivalry that has been built up in the United States for us soccer wise? Mexico. Mexico is the primary rival to the U.S. soccer team. I am not going to flip the script and go root for Mexico right away because the U.S. got kicked out of the World Cup. And it's really sad to watch announcers try to make this happen, right? Because they got to sell it somehow, right? And obviously, this is being done for money reasons. Can't U.S. isn't in the World Cup, so we've got to sell Mexico, and it's really convenient that the Mexican team is represented by the same folks that represent MLS and the national team, U.S. national team, and all that, so that pretty much before the corpse was cold, they were telling us we had to root for Mexico. And my answer is no. You've spent a lot of time investing us in Mexico as the rival, the enemy. Not going to happen. Now, mind you, if you're a Mexican fan, you have been for the last 20 years, more power to you. I hope you really enjoy the World Cup, and I hope they do well for you. But I am not going to flip to be rooting for Mexico just because you want to line your pockets and it's the only way you can think of to separate my money from me and to get advertisers to pay for the World Cup when Americans are making fun of it. For goodness sake, I got a political site that made fun of it this morning, showed up in my YouTube feed. Um, what was it? The Daily Wire. They just were making fun of the fact that Americans pretend to like the World Cup, they don't watch it, and they're basically calling everybody who plays soccer a beta male. Okay, take that for with what you want. Go watch it there. Don't scream about it here. Go watch it there and scream at them there. But that's what's going on right now in the U.S. And the fact that you've lost the narrative doesn't mean that I have to go root for Mexico. Okay, back to the original point. Why don't I care about the World Cup? The World Cup is a tournament that takes place once every 4 years, right? It is basically irrelevant. Yes, I know everybody wants to have the best players in the world and they want to have them go for their team, their country, and win the World Cup, right? Yay for them. I mean, it's kind of a Olympics type thing that you want somebody to win, but you really shouldn't care all that much. And the World Cup has been instrumental in making higher level soccer exist in the United States. As a matter of fact, it was part of the deal for the last World Cup that came to the United States. Part of the deal was a high tier U.S. Soccer League had to be formed. So the NASL had failed. They formed the MLS and they were off, and the MLS looks forward every 4 years to the ability to use the World Cup to boost their ratings so that the U.S. can get their team into the first tier of the World Cup and then get knocked out. Maybe second tier, but really the first tier. Um, and that's happened year after year. Uh, and the MLS seems to think they get a bump out of it this way. And the MLS is really terrible about what they're doing with soccer in the United States. They're not good at growing it from the bottom. I mean, growing it from the bottom is going on with USL and other leagues that are out there, and teams like Detroit City FC. These are people who are growing it from the bottom, growing fans, right? The MLS, soccer is succeeding in the United States despite the MLS, right? Uh, it would be a God-given miracle if the MLS went out of business, USL stepped up, became Tier 1, and with a better business model and promotion relegation and made it work. USL could do that. The MLS never will. And that rant out of the way. Let's move on. Uh, the soccer booms, mini booms that occur with the World Cup aren't really what's bringing people to the stadiums. What's bringing people to the stadiums, it's kind of people who are Europhilic, and want to go watch this, and they kind of draw some of the oddballs, and they don't draw the people who are going to the football stadiums and the baseball games. It's kind of the oddballs that don't go there, although there's some crossover with, but I mean, I go to soccer and I go to baseball, but this last weekend soccer got bumped by baseball because there was a better deal going on at a park about an hour further down the road. That said, if I'd have had a USL team ticket rather than a PDL ticket, it might not have happened. Let's see. Um, Soccer's growing from the bottom. It's not growing from where it's trying to be imposed from the top by the MLS, right? The MLS has a lot of teams that just ain't doing that well, and about 3 to 4 that are. And what needs to happen to fix this is the United States needs to become greedy and selfish, right? The United States needs to stop trying to, you hear this from soccer fans all the time. If we want to have a great national team, we need to send all our good players over to Europe, because if they go to Europe, they'll play against top tier players and will come back during the Premier League and play for the national, or not Premier League, during the World Cup and play against other internationals, and our American team will have a chance of winning. Why do I care about that, right? You should be trying to make me want to go every week to go watch a USL game, every week to watch an MLS game. You should be trying to put me in that stadium as opposed to trying to make a team that will go in and wash out every 4 years in a tournament. It's not logical, right? The U.S. needs to be trying to keep its talent in the country, right? So talent as it comes up, and the academies and all that is a bad system, but that's a thing for another day. Talent that comes up in the country needs to be locked down and kept here, right? I don't care if that means you develop a super strong minor league system like baseball's got, or a fairly strong minor league system like hockey's got. But however it is, you need to lock the talent down and keep it here. You need to have 2 really good players on every team, right? And there's enough people in the United States that are starting to play soccer now that you can start going that direction. The MLS right now is a league full of never-weres and has-beens. I mean, it's the place where European players come after they can't cut it in Europe anymore and make money here, right? It's the place where people who can't quite make it in Europe come to play with the hope that they'll be seen and be yanked out of a U.S. team and go to Europe. This is a terrible, terrible way to run a league. You need to lock down talent, get it locked in the United States, and have week after week people wanting to come to the stadium. Yeah, I know that Seattle and Atlanta are doing really well right now. Let's see where Atlanta is in 5 years, right? Maybe if they continue to win, you might be able to keep standard crowds up pretty high. We'll see. The United States needs to channel as much talent to its leagues as it can. And by concentrating on the World Cup, a once every 4 years tournament, they hurt themselves, because if you're concentrating on that, yes, it makes sense to send people over to Europe to play. Because then if you get 8 or 10 people over in Europe who are on the first teams in the Bundesliga, the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, you get 8 or 10 or 12 of those guys, and heck, all of a sudden you've got a good national team. Probably not a great national team, but a good national team, right? And MLS continues to suck. Be selfish, be concerned about your local teams, build the sport in the United States, and catch a clue. The World Cup is a second-tier thing. We should be concerned about our leagues and let the World Cup handle itself in the future. The day that the MLS is up there in the top 5 leagues is the day that American soccer has made it. The day that the American soccer team makes it 3 tiers up into the World Cup is not the day it's made it. And it's a good possibility, unless it's after the MLS has fixed itself and gotten really good teams. It's a good possibility. It's an indication that the U.S. has failed and let talent go overseas. So that's it for today. If you like this one, hit like. I know I'm not going to get many of that, because all the soccer fans are all about, or the hardcore soccer fans are about Europe, right? Not about our soccer leagues, which is really pretty sad. If you like what you see around here generally, hit subscribe. If you want to leave me a message, at LammersK at yahoo.com, or no, at LammersK on Twitter. And leave comments below. I'm sure you're going to tell me why I'm terribly wrong and all that. I promise that I will try to read them all. I can't promise I'll answer, because I've got to have a day job to pay for this hobby, and it takes up a lot of time. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with one last thing, the same thing I always say. If you got a little bit of extra time and you got a little bit of extra money, go watch some minor league sports. Y'all have a good week now.